I don't know the, the, the actual name of the theme. The sort of the idea of, you know, using the past to inform your work. And so, um, and then there was the idea of, what was it, ownership or property or something like that, which I didn't quite understand what was meant by property. So, I mean, I think part of it is like, okay, are you referring to other people's artistic properties or work? But then it's also, making references to things that have been written in the past. Are you going back to whether it's a historical type thing or whether it's somebody else's writing in the past that you're kind of aping.
Oh, so like the what's the Jane Austen is where someone did like a
Well, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies? Or,
yeah, like that kind of stuff? Is it kind of hitting it like that kind of thing? Like how do we treat intellectual property in that way? Was that what it was trying to do?
from the discussion, it was hard to be sure because, I mean, you get the audience questions and sometimes you really go off the rails.
Yeah, I had the same thing in a diversity panel. Literally from the first question that we took, it went way off rails. And it just ended up being a bunch of like meme one-liners from the internet. I just had to respond to like basically the YouTube comment section. It did not go well. It was not constructive. If you want to know how that panel went for me and everybody else in the room, go to the announcement for Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Go to the comment section. Read through that back and forth down there. That's pretty much how it went.
Oh,
we
my
got
goodness.
nowhere. We got nowhere. But aside from that, all the other panels I think were great. I found myself constantly talking about Hellraiser, which was a problem, just kept coming up, which I think made me look really creepy. Like of all the horror movies to reference in like that kind of setting, the weird sadomasochistic sexy torture movie is probably not the one to keep bringing up over and over and over again. It was like 4 or 5 times that I brought up the movie Hellraiser. Like I'm really glad people didn't follow me from panel room to panel room, or it would have been really weird. So I'm gonna have to work on my references next time. Not bring up Hellraiser so often. Rough.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend. And see, in the middle, I saw Elton John. So it's like, okay, Tucson, one day of Elton John, then back. So it was, I hope to do similar thing again, except, all 3 days. Where,
Yeah, you were telling me you brought the kids to Elton John, right?
yeah.
Because they're big fans.
Yes, yeah, my kids know a lot of classic rock. Because, we're always driving them back and forth in the car. And it's not just classic rock. They know the 80s and they know a wide variety of musical styles, but it's just funny that even as small children, you catch them singing along with songs like, where did you even hear that? Like, I'm glad you like it because
Yeah.
it's playing on the radio.
Yeah.
So, Elton John, they knew a lot of the songs,
Fascinating.
which is good because those were expensive tickets and they were nosebleed seats.
Yeah,
It was loud. It was crazy. I mean, I'm glad I brought earplugs for everybody because you can still hear it with earplugs in, but you could feel it. You're getting shaken by the sound.
Yeah, I like it that way.
Well, it was Bank One Ball. Well, it's Chase Field. That's what it's
Yeah.
called nowadays. And so, and we were up, like I said, nosebleed. So you're just, like a mountain goat climbing up into the stands there, and there's a bunch of drunk people, and so many people had feather boas that there were like pieces of cheap feather boa all over the place.
I love that detail. That's going to end up in a poem at some point. The cheap feather boas from the Elton John concert. That's an image. I don't know what it means yet, but it's just waiting to be connected to something to mean something else. So I like that image. It's like a red wheelbarrow, but more magnificent.
Well, I was just thinking, boy, these things are falling apart. They're in the air. It's like, if you got mesothelioma from cheap feather boas, you may be entitled to compensation.
If a stage falls on you, if you're at a Travis Scott show in Texas, no. But no, really though, he sucks for that. But Megan has this interesting thing where like any rock music before the 80s, she'll refer to it as classic rock. So this brings up an interesting sub conversation. What genre was Elton John upon release? Because he wasn't classic rock upon release. So what genre was Elton John upon release?
I'd say it was pop music at that point.
Right. That's what I was thinking, is a lot of what we refer to as classic rock now was probably classified as pop at the
Well,
time.
most of it. I mean, unless it was what they would call album-oriented rock, where it's not like the top 40 stuff, but tons of it, that's classic rock. I mean, it was on the top 40.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting. Album oriented, if we're going to shift to music for a second, album oriented stuff. I'm very ADHD, guys, so hang out with me. Album oriented stuff is something that I would really like to see return. Because like with the shift towards like music streaming and albums being more streaming based, it's like when music was more tuned for the radio, but worse, where like every single song is basically a single. Like there would be 6 or 7 singles for an album.
oh yeah.
It's
I saw like
ridiculous.
Taylor Swift had 11 positions, or the 11 top positions of Billboard. It's like, well, that's because you have to stream every single one of them. That's not Billboard is not what it used to be, where it was how many songs are getting sold and how many songs are getting played on the radio. And so it was an achievement to have 5 songs in the top 10. But now it's like if they're all in the top 10 and it's all based on podcast or streaming, and Bob Dylan gets number 1 with a 17-minute song, then it's just okay. How many people are streaming it today? I think it taken the meaning out of number 1 on the Billboard charts.
I agree. And it definitely shifted it because it affected the trend in that if you release, like Taylor Swift, if we just stick on that one, if you release a really strong album, you can dominate the entire top songs chart. Like it's a real problem. It happens anytime a Kendrick album comes out. It'll just like brick out the top 10. It happens with Taylor Swift. It happened with Katy Perry in the beginning. I remember it happening. It's happened a few times. And then it's created these weird trends in like record keeping where Little Pump is like going to be in the history books for music. And that's an unfortunate piece of history that we just have to deal with because there was a blip in the record keeping where like Little Pump was allowed to just rise to popularity because the same person played the song 12,000 times at a party. It's very interesting. I think it's fascinating.
Wow, you're gonna find more of those loopholes.
Yeah, we do. Well, loopholes in music and just getting really weird. So Taylor Swift just set that record for album sales. One of my coworkers, who's a Taylor Swift fan, was telling me that one of the ways that they did that and why it's kind of like a little fudge, a little cheeky with the numbers, is in order to complete the image of the clock tower on the back of the album, you have to buy 4 different versions of it.
Oh, wow.
So all the super fans bought the album 4 times, which is genius. I immediately thought of like extracting like video game companies, how they identify whales and identify like the core items that they want in each game and just extract the money from them. And they're doing the same thing in music now.
Producer's going to interject. That's not a new trend. Kiss did that when they all went solo.
Oh
and
yeah,
they
there's
each released a
4 solo albums. But...
So you had to buy each member's solo album to kind of get the complete set.
Yeah, and you got like 1 album's worth of music out of that.
Right.
Yeah, see? That's a
But
good
it
album
worked.
too.
But it worked.
That's a good idea too. That's a good idea. I think it's cheeky. I think it's cheeky and fun.
Well, and talking about monetization, I do have a piece that's like that, so we'll roll into this. Okay. I'll try to hold it as far away from the microphone.
You're interfering a little bit there.
Okay, is this good?
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay. Hey, Mickey, I don't want to pay for the lightning lane. I already coughed up a couple $100 to get into this mousetrap, and now I'm bound in the shallows and miseries of the standby line. $20 per ticket per person per day might be fine for the bougie crowd streaming by, but over here it's building an undercurrent of resentment that's certain to build a battalion of mini Marxists. Congratulations, you managed to monetize the magic right out of this kingdom. Their money costs me more time. My slow crawl to the ride gets stalled by the upper crust blitz, hopping on here, hopping off there, and hi-hoing through Fantasyland on the way to their next available rabbit hole. It's bad enough that Disney heretically transformed popular religions like the Chronicles of Star Wars, or the Stan Lee saga, or the Pixar fables, but now they've stuck a long and winding line in between the cart and the gate. Once upon a time in the Disney Pantheon pilgrimage, there was a fast pass, and it was good. You got your designated time to enjoy at least one of your favorite rides, and there was no extra charge. The attraction at the end of the lightning lane is a fast-paced, exciting thrill ride with sharp drops, bumps, and strobe lights, which you are never going to get to experience because the line always breaks down, or the ride always breaks down before you common folk get to it. And now the whole world's gone lightning. On your way out of Anaheim, you can pay $16 to take the faster section of the used-to-be freeway. Taxes paid for it, but it costs more if you want to enjoy it. You can't get a sandwich at the sub shop because there's a 30-minute backup from people who ordered on the app. And if you don't sign up for an online TV network, you're never going to get two-day free shipping. It's high time for a rise of the resistance that brings back the fast pass. If we ground and discharge this lightning lunacy right now, at least we'll have a chance to top be the happiest jerks on earth, and then we can all get amped up on the oversugared churros.